Hey, welcome back. Let's watch some more breakup story times.
I'm going to tell you about the exact moment I realized I needed to leave my 8-year relationship. When I was younger, I dated someone all the way through high school, literally from before I went into grade 9, I was so young, until all 4 years college university. And I broke up with him about a month before our 8-year anniversary.
Oh,
I would say I was already unhappy and unsure about the relationship about 4 years before I actually left it. But I attributed that just to the transition from high school to college university, going to different schools. It was very stressful. But the exact moment I knew that the relationship was over was at my cousin's wedding. So my cousin was getting married. She's the oldest of my generation, first one in my generation of cousins to get married. Obviously, I was bringing my boyfriend with me to the wedding. He was basically part of the family. He was around all the time, knew everyone very well. I asked him to take that day off work so that we could make it to the wedding, get ready. There was no struggle about getting to the wedding. And of course, he did not take the day off work. So he was working right up till we had to leave. I remember showing up to his house, his parents' house at the time, and pacing in front of his bedroom door, waiting for him to get home because we needed to leave. My family, my parents had already left to go to the wedding. When we got there, everyone was already seated. I was stressed. At the time, I wasn't medicated, so... Anyway, that's all besides the point. So we sit down, we're watching the wedding happen. It's very sweet. Everyone's teary. I'm teary. I get teary at weddings. I remember looking at my cousin. I remember watching her up there on the altar. And they were doing their vows. And I remember looking at them and the love that they had. And then I remember looking over at my boyfriend. And I remember thinking to myself, whatever they have up there, I don't have here.
mm-mm.
I remember very clearly thinking, I don't have what they have with this man beside me. And it was honestly a clicked aha moment. This needs to end. I don't have that. And I want that. Now, mind you, this relationship lasted almost another full year. So that wedding was in October, and I broke up with him in July. I think for the most part, we just grew apart. We were growing into different people. It's so hard to be with someone from that age. Some people do it. My parents did it. But I was definitely struggling with my identity. I didn't know who I was as an individual person. And at the end of the day, he just wasn't the right person for me, and I wasn't the right person for him. But that was the exact moment that I attribute to knowing that I needed to leave that relationship and that I knew that I would be leaving that relationship. I'm going to tell you about the exact moment I realized.
That's very interesting, eh? I'm so glad she had that realization. She's lucky that her cousin has such a, good love that she was able to see that and be like, hey, that's what I want and that's what I don't have. And I need to get out of this. So good for her. And let's just go back. The fact that he made her late for this, that he didn't care enough to book the day off when it's clearly an important event, that shows that's enough right there to want to break up, honestly, because it's he's just disrespecting her, does not care if she makes it to her cousin's wedding on time. That's so beyond. So I'm glad she got out.
Story time. Okay, so I'm going through a hellacious breakup right now, but I'm not going to tell you about that breakup. I mean, she's posting pictures of her having a great time with the guy and all this and that and the third. But that wasn't my worst breakup ever. My worst breakup ever happened about 20 years ago. So I was working as a federal agent. And because of the job constraints, I usually dated people that worked in the building, not in the same profession, but in the building, and federal squares are really large. So I started dating this single mother, and she was cool. She was from New Jersey, had a lot of attitude, and I like that. And we had an earthquake out here in California. It was a very severe earthquake, and it damaged her apartment building to the point where she lived on the second floor and the stairs fell. So we had just been dating about 2 months. And so I offered her and her child to move in with me in my house, which she did. And, things went well for about a month, and then things stopped going well. And I went, as was my custom, with my buddies to watch Monday Night Football. And some woman put her business card in my lapel. So I went home and didn't even think about it. The next morning, she had the business card and she was cussing me out. And I was like, well, if that's the way you're going to be, then you need to leave.
Ooh.
And she left. So this was like a Friday night by the time she left. And by Sunday, I really missed her. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to go over there. I'm going to wait until I see her on Monday. So I went down to her office because, you know, I had a badge and I go wherever I wanted to. It was really cool. And I asked her if could I speak to her. And she said, sure. So we went out and I was about to tell her, like, look, I miss you. You know, I hope you come back. You know, I hope, or if you don't come back, I hope we can at least restart our relationship. And this dude walks up and says, can I speak to you? And she says, I'm sorry, I have to go. And I'm looking, and the dude looks like a younger, smaller version of me. I'm like, what the entire... So she goes off with this dude, and I'm like, what just happened here? So I look, and they're like having this argument. Now, I had seen her with him before, because he was like, I thought he was like her intern. And I'm almost out of time, so there will be a part 2. Okay, so this is part 2 of the worst breakup ever. Part 1 is up. You can go check that one out. So when I left off, I had just talked to the woman who had moved out of my house on Friday, and I had went to get her back on Monday because we worked in the same spot. And as I was speaking to her, this little dude that looked like literally a mini version of me, except younger and shorter, you know, came up and said, can I speak to you? And she's like, yes. And she just walked away from our conversation. So I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I followed them. They went into this corridor that was empty, just the two of them in it, and they're having this intense conversation. And I'm like, the hell? So I go in there. I gently grab her wrist. I'm like, I'm not finished talking to you. And I start leading her away. Dude grabs my wrist and says, get your hand off my woman.
Whoa.
So I snap, I grab him, lift him up off his feet, pin him against the wall, and I say, who are you and why are you interrupting my conversation?
Oh my God.
And she's like, honey, don't hurt him. And I'm like, is this your man? And she's like, yes. I'm like, when the hell did that happen? And neither one of them answered, but then I noticed that there was like a crowd had started, and I didn't see a crowd. I didn't see anybody except them until I looked around, and it was like a sea of people.
It was when you pinned him.
Started walking through that sea of people, and they spread like the Red Sea, like I was on fire or something. And one of the people I ran into was my boss, and I said, I'm on leave, and he's like, good idea. So I called up my unemployed buddy. You always have to have an unemployed buddy. And I said, man, we need to go get drunk. And we went and we got drunk, and he was like, yeah, man, it's good to have you back in the block. We're going to be running these chicks, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. So I'll go home, and about 9 p.m., I sober up, and I said, okay, I got to go talk to her. So I went over to her place, rang the doorbell, and was like, hello. And I'm like, the hell? And I said, I must have the wrong apartment.
Nope.
So I ring the bell again, and he answers again. And I'm like, is this the dude from this morning? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, put her on the phone. He's like, she can't come to the phone right now. And I say, okay. And then somebody comes in, and I follow them up, inside.
No.
Start banging on the door.
Oh my gosh.
And eventually I have to go home because I was causing another scene. And I didn't want to get in trouble with internal affairs.
Okay.
And I'm running out of time again, so there will be a part 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this has got to be the final part here to this one. So far, this guy's being pretty aggressive. Pinning the guy up on the wall, getting into the apartment when he shouldn't, showing up at work when he shouldn't, banging on their door. Yeah, but at least he knows he's causing a scene. He admitted that, so let's see what happens in this third and final part.
So, part 3 of worst breakup ever. Part 1 and 2 are up. Please go and like and follow and, They're up, so go check them out. So now I'm home, and she calls me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What is he doing there?" And she's like, "He lives here."
Wow.
So obviously this was going on, you know, before they broke up. She swears it wasn't. She swears they were just friends until he got the opening, and then he just rushed to go in. And I guess the place she chose was a little bit out of her budget, and his extra income helped, so she let him move in. And that's just the kind of person she was. So I'm at work, and they're starting to be out with their relationship, and everybody's kind of like looking at me like, how the hell did you let this little boy steal your woman? You know. Excuse me. And one time I was making a copy of something, and I left the original in the copy machine, and as I was going back, I heard someone say, "He left his original here." Yeah, his woman has his mind so messed up. And they were laughing. And I was like, okay, I see how this is. I see how this is.
No, that's rude.
So they went to this black event. You know, the black federal agents had a association. And they went there, and he was like slobbing all over her, marking his territory, just pissing all over her, you know, to make sure everybody knew that they were together.
Ay, ay, ay.
So one person that saw this had like the prettiest daughter ever. You know, like she was just like gorgeous. And she calls me, she says, "You know, I've always thought you would be great for my daughter." So I start dating her daughter. The other girl hears about this, because everybody knew her daughter was like, you know, just almost a perfect 10. She hears about it. She kicks the guy out. The guy comes to me and tells me, "Yeah, she kicked me out so she could get you back." I'm like, "Really?" And she's like really, really, really pushing up on me to get back, which I didn't.
Good.
But the amazing thing was, as soon as she wanted to, I was good.
Wow.
And I'm applying that to this breakup I'm going through now. It's all ego.
Yeah.
It's all ego. As soon as you know they want you, you're good. And you probably don't even want them back.
Wow.
So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Like and follow for more.
That's interesting that was the case for him. As soon as he found out that she wanted him, then he didn't care anymore. So his issue was that he wasn't the chosen one. That's what was hurting him so much, that she chose someone else. It wasn't about her. It was about not being chosen. That's interesting. Yeah, she moved on pretty quickly. It was like after the weekend, but she clearly needed somewhere to live since you kicked her and her kid out. So I guess it was desperate times called for desperate measures, and she found somewhere to go. And you know, you moved on too. So that's what's good in the end. Anyways, I think that's a good place for us to end it today. We got his part 3 in there. And I'll see you guys next week with another video. Bye.